Since the 1990s, some residents of a small US town have reported hearing this bizarre sound. Similar hums have been reported all over the world, only being audible to a small proportion of the population, and no one knows what could be causing it. Join us as we dig deeper into the mysterious phenomenon known as the Taos Hum. In 1973, a report was published in New Scientist magazine which mentioned a strange university study. The study in question centred around 50 cases of people complaining about hearing a low throbbing background noise which others were unable to hear. The peculiar sound was described as always peaking between 30 and 40 Hz, only being heard during cool weather with a light breeze, and usually early in the morning. These cases were mainly confined to a small 10-kilometre wide area. This report seemed to go under the radar for the next decade or two, and the bizarre hum didn't come back into public knowledge until a paper was published in the early 90s on the phenomenon. The town of Taos in north-central New Mexico is the most well-known location of this mysterious hum, and was the subject of this paper published by Joe Mullins, Professor Emeritus of Engineering at the University of New Mexico. Residents voiced their concerns to Congress about the maddening noise, resulting in a public study. Performing a survey of Taos residents, around just 2% of the population were believed to be hearers or individuals that were unlucky enough to detect the hum. Strangely, sensitive equipment was set up in the homes of several of the hearers, measuring sounds and vibrations, but after extensive testing, nothing unusual was detected. The research did have some intriguing findings though, primarily that there was not one single definitive hum that people heard. Instead, those surveyed reported several different types of humming, being described as a whirring, a hum, or a buzz. The only unusual activity observed was elevated electromagnetic field levels, but this was determined to be the result of local power lines. No definitive source of the hum was ever identified. However, Taos is not the only location that experiences this strange phenomenon. For example, there's the Taos, New Mexico hum, the Bristol, England hum, the Largs, Scotland hum. Scarce researchers looked into the phenomenon, and the few existing studies lack definitive answers. There are dozens of other cities, both big and small, in which some residents claim to hear something strange, just as there may be more than one explanation for unidentified lights in the sky or along the skyline. There may be more than one explanation for unidentified sounds. The mysterious sounds range from a high-pitched squeal to a low murmur to a faint rumble, and the explanations are almost as varied as the sounds themselves. Though some of these mysterious sounds remain unexplained, many were eventually identified. For example, in 2012, residents in Borneo reported hearing bizarre roaring or snoring sounds, beginning very early in the morning and lasting a few hours until dawn. It happened 2 days in a row, frightening and puzzling locals. Investigation revealed that the mysterious noises were caused by a nearby factory testing their boiler while the plant was closed. In February 2014, a mysterious short-lived loud droning, unearthly sound like in the science fiction film Independence Day was reported in the skies over Coventry, England. It baffled residents for miles, but an unseen airplane was later revealed to have been the cause. Further, beginning around 2011, residents of Windsor, Ontario began hearing an intermittent hum, which sometimes lasted several hours at a time. In 2013, after many complaints from citizens, including numerous reports of the health problems, the Canadian government funded a study to explore the problem. A group of researchers led by Colin Novak, an associate professor of engineering at the University of Windsor, reported that the Windsor hum was indeed a real sound, an acoustic wave that propagated through the air with a frequency of approximately 35 Hz. Its actual source was a bit harder to nail down. The researchers think it likely came from a blast furnace at a US steel facility on Zug Island, an industrial site just southwest of Detroit, Michigan, just across the border from Windsor. But they can't be sure. We never found the definitive smoking gun, but all the evidence seems to point toward that being the source, says Novak, who specialises in the field of psychoacoustics. I wish we could have taken the study a little bit further. However, we just didn't have cooperation from the industry or the government on the US side. Then, on the Canadian side, we had a political party change, and the new party in power was less interested in pursuing it. In any case, after US Steel closed the plant in 2020, reports of the Windsor hum seem to have ceased. Meanwhile, people tormented by the hum in other places still seek answers. Low-frequency sounds can generally cause health problems, and this puzzling hum is no exception. Hum hearers report headaches, nausea, insomnia, fatigue, and memory loss. As always, there are many competing theories as to the cause behind this maddening and pervasive noise. It's important to remember that sound is all around us. Most of it goes unnoticed until we start paying attention to it, and there are easily hundreds of possible explanations. Most researchers do feel fairly certain that the hum is real, though there is no consensus on a direct cause. Industrial equipment is often the first suspected source of the hum, as was the case in Bristol and Kokomo. Other possible explanations include high-pressure gas lines, electrical power lines, and wireless communication devices. There's also a theory that the hum could be the result of low-frequency electromagnetic radiation, which is only audible to some people. Other environmental factors have also been blamed, including seismic activity like microseisms, which are very faint, low-frequency tremors that can be generated by the action of ocean waves. Another more peculiar potential cause relates to the West Seattle hum. They considered that it was related to the midshipman fish, also known as a toadfish. A previous hum in Sausalito, California, also on the west coast of the US, was determined to be the mating call of the male midshipman. However, in that case, the hum was resonating through houseboat hulls and affecting the people living on those boats. In the West Seattle case, the University of Washington researcher determined it would be impossible for any resonating hum transmitted via tanker or boat hulls to be transmitted very far inland, certainly not far enough to account for the reports. The Scottish Association for Marine Science hypothesised that the nocturnal humming sound heard in Hythe, Hampshire in the UK could be produced by a similar sonic fish. The council believed this to be unlikely, since such fish are not commonly found in inshore waters of the UK. Many researchers suggest that the answer to the Taos Hum mystery may be found in the inner world of personal experience instead of the outer world of factories and heavy equipment. What does your tongue taste like? What does your nose smell like? What does your ear sound like? These aren't silly, simple questions, but instead may hold part of the answer. Even though we don't notice it, our ears sometimes create their own noises. And because the sounds are subtle, we don't hear them until it's very quiet, or we're listening carefully. This phenomenon, called spontaneous otoacoustic emissions, is different than auditory disorders such as tinnitus, which causes a ringing in the ears. It might explain some of the hearer's reports. Of course, any time there's an unexplained phenomena in science, conspiracy theories are sure to follow. Some believe the hum is the result of military experiments or submarine communications. The High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HAARP, has also been a popular target of conspiracy theorists. Some believe this government agency, which conducts research on Earth's ionosphere, is conducting experiments which create the hum, in addition to manipulating weather patterns. This may be covered in a future video. Please leave a comment below if you'd like this to be the subject of a deep dive in the future. The fact that only a tiny percentage of people claimed to hear the Taos hum was also puzzling. It's not that the other 98% of the Taos population had poor hearing, but instead perhaps that those who heard the hum were superhearers with unusually keen hearing. Or it's also possible that given such a weak effect in such a few number of people, that the hum is merely an auditory hallucination. Such hallucinations don't necessarily indicate any sort of mental illness or disturbance, but may simply be the result of common and harmless psychological and physiological processes. Neurologist Oliver Sacks, for example, has written extensively on both visual and auditory hallucinations in his books Musicophilia, Tales of Music and the Brain, and Hallucinations. Some of the Taos hum hearers have even reported hearing it after they've moved out of the area. Unfortunately for those affected, due to the relatively small proportion of people that can hear the noise, there's little interest in funding such obscure research. Therefore, it's not looking likely that the cause behind this bizarre phenomenon will ever be uncovered. However, unexplained does not mean unexplainable, and it's possible that future research will shine a light on this. It's possible that the Taos hum is real, and its true origins remain unknown, and it's also possible that the hum only exists in the minds and ears of those who report it. For now, though, the hum will remain shrouded in mystery.